Ha-hah, a ha-hah French, ha-hah or saut de loup is a recessed landscape design element that creates a vertical barrier particularly on one side while preserving an uninterrupted view of the landscape beyond from the other side. The design can include a turfed incline that slopes downward to a sharply vertical face, typically a masonry retaining wall. Ha-has are used in landscape design to prevent access to a garden by, for example, grazing livestock without obstructing views. In security design, the element is used to deter vehicular access to a site while minimizing visual obstruction. The name ha-hah is thought to have stemmed from the reaction of the son of Louis XIV of France, whose governess prevented him from approaching the drop for fear of injury. When he approached, he said, "Ha-ha, this is what I'm supposed to be afraid of," and since then more people started referring to saut de loup as ha-ha. Alternatively, it could be just because of the element of surprise one has when approaching the construction. It may have been referred to as ha-ha as an abbreviation of half and half, with half a wall and half a ditch, although this in a letter to Daniel During in 1724, John Perceval, first Earl of Egmont, father to the Prime Minister Spencer Perceval, observed of Stowe, "What adds to the beauty of this garden is that it is not bounded by walls, but by a ha-ha, which leaves you the sight of the beautiful woody country, and makes you ignorant how far the high-planted walks extend." Origins. Before mechanical lawn mowers, a common way to keep large areas of grassland trimmed was to allow livestock, usually sheep, to graze the grass. A ha-ha prevented grazing animals on large estates from gaining access to the lawn and gardens adjoining the house, giving a continuous vista to create the illusion that the garden and landscape were one and undivided. The basic design of sunken ditches is of ancient origin, being a feature of deer parks in England. The deer leap or saltatorium consisted of a ditch with one steep side surmounted by a pale picket-style fence made of wooden stakes or hedge, which allowed deer to enter the park but not to leave. Since the time of the Norman conquest of England, the right to construct a deer leap was granted by the king, with reservations made as to the depth of the fosse or ditch and the height of the pale or hedge. On Dartmoor, the deer leap was known as a leap-eat. The name ha-ha is of French origin, with the term being attested in toponyms in New France from 1686, as seen today in St. Louis du ha-ha, and being a feature of the gardens of the Château de Meudon, circa 1700. The technical innovation was presented in Désir d'Argenville's La Théorie et la Pratique du Jardinage 1709, which the architect John James 1712 translated into English. Grills of iron are very necessary ornaments in the lines of walks, to extend the view, and to show the country to advantage. At present we frequently make thoroughviews, called ha-hah, which are openings in the walls without grills, to the very level of the walks, with a large and deep ditch at the foot of them, lined on both sides, ha, from where it takes its name. This sort of opening is ha-ha on some occasions to be preferred, for that it does not at all interrupt the prospect, as the bars of a grill do. The etymology of the term is generally given as being an expression of surprise. Someone says ha-ha or ah-ah when they encounter such a feature. This is the explanation given in French, where it is traditionally attributed to Louis, Grand Dauphin, on encountering such features at Meudon, by d'Argenville trans. James above, and by Walpole, who surmised that the name is derived from the response of ordinary folk on encountering them, and that they were. Thomas Jefferson, describing the garden at Stowe after his visit in April 1786, also uses the term with exclamation marks. The enclosure is entirely by ha-ha. In Britain, the ha-ha is a feature of the landscape gardens laid out by Charles Bridgeman and William Kent, and was an essential component of the swept views of Capability Brown. Horace Walpole credits Bridgeman with the invention of the ha-ha, but was unaware of the earlier French origins. The contiguous ground of the park without the sunk fence was to be harmonized with the lawn within, and the garden in its turn was to be set free from its prim regularity, that it might assort with the wilder country without. During his excavations at Iona, in the period 1964–1984, Richard Rees discovered an 18th-century ha-ha designed to protect the abbey from cattle. Ice houses were sometimes built into ha-ha walls because they provide a subtle entrance that makes the ice house a less intrusive structure, and the ground provides additional insulation. Examples. Most typically, ha-has are still found in the grounds of grand country houses and estates. They keep cattle and sheep out of the formal gardens without the need for obtrusive fencing. They vary in depth from about 0.6 m 2 ft Horton House to 2.7 m 9 ft Petworth House. An unusually long example is the ha-ha that separates the Royal Artillery Barracks field from Woolwich Common in southeast London. This deep ha-ha was installed around 1774 to prevent sheep and cattle grazing at a stopover on Woolwich Common on their journey to the London meat markets from wandering onto the Royal Artillery Gunnery Range. A rare feature of this east-west ha-ha is that the normally hidden brick wall emerges above ground for its final 75 yards, 70 meters or so as the land falls away to the west, revealing a fine batter to the brickwork face of the wall, thus exposed. This final west section of the ha-ha forms the boundary of the gatehouse by James Wyatt R.A. The Royal Artillery ha-ha is maintained in a good state of preservation by the Ministry of Defence. It is a listed building, and is accompanied by ha-ha Road that runs alongside its full length. There is a shorter ha-ha in the grounds of the nearby Jacobean Charlton House. The Royal Crescent, row of 30 terraced houses in Bath, Somerset, which were built between 1767 and 1774 in the Georgian architecture style, also feature a large ha-ha that provides an uninterrupted view of Royal Victoria Park. In Australia, ha-has were also used at Victorian-era lunatic asylums such as Yarra Bend Asylum, Beechworth Asylum, and Kew Lunatic Asylum in Victoria, and the Parkside Lunatic Asylum in South Australia. From the inside, the walls presented a tall face to patients, preventing them from escaping, while from outside they looked low so as not to suggest imprisonment. For the patients themselves, standing before the trench, it also enabled them to see the wider landscape. Kew Asylum has been redeveloped as apartments, however some of the ha-has remain, albeit partially filled in. Ha-ha variations used at Australian mental asylums. Ha-has were also used in North America. Only 2 historic installations remain in Canada, one of which is on the grounds of Nova Scotia's Uniacke House 1813, a rural estate built by Richard John Uniacke, an Irish-born Attorney General of Nova Scotia. A 21st-century use of a ha-ha is at the Washington Monument to minimize the visual impact of security measures. After 9/11 and another unrelated terror threat at the monument, authorities had put up jersey barriers to prevent large motor vehicles from approaching the monument. The temporary barriers were later replaced with a new ha-ha, a low 0.76 m 30-inch granite stone wall that incorporated lighting and doubled as a seating bench. It received the 2005 Park/Landscape Award of Merit. Notable examples in fiction. In Jane Austen's Mansfield Park, a ha-ha prevents the more sensible characters from getting around a locked gate and into the woodland beyond. In Anthony Trollope's Barchester Towers, a ha-ha marks the social divisions in Miss Thorne's Fate Champeter. 2 marquees had been erected for these 2 banquets, that for the quality on the esoteric or garden side of a certain deep ha-ha, and that for the non-quality on the exoteric or paddock side of the same. In George Meredith's The Egoist, a bridge crosses the ha-ha at the edge of the garden from the park at Patterne Hall. In The Island of Dr. Moreau by H. G. Wells, a steep walled gap on the island is compared to the ha-ha of an English park. Jennifer Dawson's 1961 novel The Ha-ha is named for this landscape feature. A ha-ha with spikes at the bottom features in Tom Sharp's 1971 black comedy novel Riotous Assembly. In Tom Stoppard's 1993 play Arcadia, the ha-ha is discussed in relation to a Capability Brown garden, and is used as one of the links between the 19th and 20th century characters. In the radio soap The Archers, Nigel Pargeter digs the ha-ha at Lower Loxley Hall. The Terry Pratchett Discworld novel Men-at-Arms mentions Ankh-Morpork Palace having a hole like a ha-ha, only deeper, designed in error by ill-famed engineer Burgold Stuttily Bloody Stupid Johnson, who inadvertently specified the feature to be 50 feet deep. In stuff as Vimes and Willikins go for a walk in the countryside, they navigate their way around the ha-ha, keep their distance from the ho-ho, and completely ignore the he-he. Legal. Personal injury. Due to the hidden nature of ha-has, they can pose potential injury to the public, especially considering their initial designs were to be invisible. In 2008, during a nighttime guided walk to watch bats at Hopetoun House, Scotland, a participant of the walk attempting to make his way back to the car park fell off a ha-ha wall and suffered a severe fracture to the ankle. A successful personal injury claim of £35,000 settled upon, as the judge presiding the case deemed the ha-ha to be a dangerous man-made feature, and thus it was up to the groundskeepers to highlight the invisible danger that it presented. The presiding QC judge, Alastair Campbell, deemed a ha-ha wall to be outside the scope of the law regarding obvious dangers, such as cliffs or canals, where an occupier is not required to take precautions against a person being injured. This was due to it being an unusual man-made feature that the public would be very much unaware of, especially across a wide lawn. In 2014, a wedding guest at a British manor house fell off a ha-ha while making her way across the manor garden, displacing her right tibia and fibula bones. She brought a successful personal injury claim that was investigated by the Environmental Health Department, which agreed that the area should have been lit in some way to avoid this kind of accident. The defendants in the litigation case were quick to admit liability for the incident and settled for about £10,000. This was followed by radical changes to the signposting and lighting around the ha-ha to alert visitors of its presence. Preventive repairs. Emergency repairs to the ha-ha wall at Sunbury Park in Spelthorne, England, took place in 2009 after the council realized that they would be liable for any injury or death caused by the ha-ha wall. Surrounding vegetation was removed 2 years before the works opened up the ha-ha to the public. However, environmental services were made aware. The total cost of repairs was thought to be around £65,000. Environmental services contributed £9,000, and the rest of the funds was taken from capital funds. In 2016, the ha-ha wall in Dalzell Estate, Scotland, the council's Environmental Services Committee were concerned about potential liability and personal injury claims and enlisted the help of volunteers and staff from a local charity to repair the ha-ha wall within the estate. The repair project received funding from the Environmental Key Fund and the Heritage Lottery Fund via a Clyde and Avon Valley Landscape Partnership.